Happy Monday. And today we're talking all about how to create a better LinkedIn newsfeed so that you can waste less time on LinkedIn while also increasing your engagement. So, more on that in a minute. How was your weekend? I just finished delivering the LinkedIn Accelerator program and we maxed out the cohort this time. Very, very exciting. So many good nuggets and takeaways. And I think I learned more from the students than they learned from me. It was a fabulous time. So if you weren't able to join us, we will likely be doing it again this fall. So I know that's a little ways away, but if you missed this session, I will share the link to get on the wait list for the next one. And now it is time for Mondays with Mindy. It's a weekly show on, you guessed it, Mondays, where I talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles, what I like to call the 3 Ps of LinkedIn. So do you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer? Be sure to like this post, whether you're watching live or from the replay. Also, leave your questions below, and I will either answer them after the show, or if it deserves a full episode, I will definitely do a future episode on your topic. So feel free to leave a comment or shoot me a DM, whichever you feel most comfortable with. I love this to be a back and forth, and I like to keep the conversation going. So, how can we support each other on LinkedIn? Let's make LinkedIn a better place. Now, we're going to hop directly to today's topic. How do you start getting active on LinkedIn without getting stuck in the bottomless scroll? You know what I'm talking about? That's what we're going to get into today. A lot of people come to me, a lot of other experts, just like you and me. We may have all jumped in headfirst into 2023 with an intention to start engaging more on LinkedIn. You know, the whole I'm going to engage more. So you're sold on the fact that your target audience is here. You've been putting together your content strategy, or maybe you're posting. You spent the time writing really, really thoughtful posts that aim to engage the right people. You learned all about hashtags and how to use them on LinkedIn. You've also scrolled your newsfeed and noticed what seems to be working in the comments to get people talking. You are like so ready to start engaging in your newsfeed on LinkedIn. And yes, that's an amazing feeling, but did you notice that your feed is not showing you the people you actually want to see, or feeding you the topics that you care about? This is something I hear from a lot of my new accelerators. They get all excited. They're like, Mindy, this is great. I would love for my newsfeed to look like yours. Because when I show them mine, it's like, oh, this is one of my former accelerators. Oh, this is a client. This is one of my customers. These are people that I actually know on LinkedIn. So if you want that to happen to your newsfeed, there are some very specific steps you need to do to train LinkedIn. And as much as we'd like to complain that it's all irrelevant, like, oh, LinkedIn is just feeding me garbage. They're feeding me stuff that I don't care about. It's really not LinkedIn's fault. You must take charge of your newsfeed if you want to turn from a time waster into a gold mine of opportunities. Because what happens is LinkedIn pays attention to what you're engaging with, or it will just feed you stuff from people in your network if you don't engage at all. So you have to take responsibility and change it. You have to take charge of your newsfeed and tell LinkedIn what you want to see there. So, hey there, for those who don't know me, my name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindy Rosser Marketing, and I have a group program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. Class was in session this past week, and if you want to be sure to be notified when the next cohort is open, get on the wait list. If you're watching the replay, just look in the comments below. You'll see the link. If you're watching this live, I will share it at the end of today's session. So I help professionals who feel they are the best kept secret in their industry to become that go-to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, grow their business, and scale their impact on LinkedIn. In this live, we are going to talk about why not engaging appropriately with your newsfeed may be preventing you from growing your business and networking with the right people, and how you can instead create a more thoughtful LinkedIn newsfeed to generate opportunities. So are you ready? Let's do this. Go ahead and like this post, whether you're live or watching from the replay, to give it some social love. So, your LinkedIn newsfeed is actually not random. A lot of people think it is. They're like, oh, how do I hack it? What do I need to do? Is it random? Why does LinkedIn give me this? There's just, yuck in my newsfeed. So, now I mentioned before that engaging on LinkedIn can be a good thing, but you must engage with the right things and the right people if you actually want your newsfeed to be good, if you want it to serve up the right type of content. I get that you may have heard that more engagement is better, and it shows that you are deeply engaged with your audience. That seems completely logical, and it is correct to a point. The thing is that you want to not only engage with content that is related, you want it to be related to your niche, to your industry, to your prospects or your profession. So why is that? If you're too busy just commenting, that's the big problem is a lot of us are like, oh, more engagement is better. Whatever shows up first in my newsfeed, I'm going to comment on that. That is probably why your newsfeed is not as valuable as it could be. If you are too busy commenting on other random people's posts on LinkedIn, like Susie from that job 10 years ago, then you know what I'm talking about here. Then that could be signaling LinkedIn that it's the type of content you want moving forward, and it's going to feed you more content from those people, which may or may not be relevant to what you're doing now. So, in demand experts don't spend an hour a day commenting on a random LinkedIn post or replying to every comment in a back and forth diatribe. If you've got that much free time to peruse LinkedIn, you are not practicing your areas of expertise or growing your business strategically. I'm just going to say it. And your audience will also pick up on this vibe when they see your activity on LinkedIn. So trust me on this. I've had people come to me and say, Mindy, you know what I like about you is that you're a LinkedIn expert. I don't even know if I like to call myself that, but I do specialize in working with people on LinkedIn, but I don't spend a ton of time commenting. You will notice that after my live streams, yes, I spend an appropriate amount of time. I make it like I put it on my calendar to hop in for about 20 minutes after the live streams, kind of go across all the channels, follow up with any comments, follow up with DMs, and then I'm done. I don't spend all day back and forth. Now, if you catch me on LinkedIn, you're going to feel like I'm there a lot, but I really am not. I check my DMs usually once, maybe twice per day. If I'm launching, I may check them more often, but I don't spend a bunch of time just engaging so I can be popular. Yes, I'm using my quotes a little too much. What I like to call visible experts. So if you want to be a visible expert, people like that treat their LinkedIn newsfeed differently than what the common advice out there tells us to do. So common advice is engage as much as possible, spend as much time as you can as possible on LinkedIn, post every single day, if not more than that, engage with comments in real time. Okay, if you are like that on LinkedIn, you are not getting deep work done. For most of us who are experts in our field, we do require large chunks of time for doing deep work or working with clients or teaching programs and courses. So, people that are visible experts treat their LinkedIn newsfeed with precision. Every comment is calculated. They only share where they can add value. They also understand the repercussions and the ripple effects of each and every engagement. So you may think that these experts are just engaging naturally, but that's just how it appears because they have gotten this down to an art form and they have the data to back it up. It is working for them. So think about some of the top experts that you know in your industry. Just kind of pause. Okay, think of one or two. Maybe they're competitors to you. Maybe there are people that are levels and levels above you that you aspire to be like. But think about some of the top experts. Now, if you're sitting in front of your computer and you want to do this exercise with me, look them up on LinkedIn right now, or look up one of them to see how much time that they actually spend engaging with their comments. Now, I'd hesitate to guess that it's not very much, unless it's on a discussion type post. If they post something and say, hey, let's discuss in the comments, okay, well, you expect them to hop in and comment and reply. But they probably are not spending, like, if you looked at their timestamp for what they're doing on LinkedIn, it's probably not every few minutes that they're chiming in with the comment or something pithy or commenting on somebody else's post. They likely instead are taking a very strategic approach to focusing on their most important work as an expert. And then maybe they found a few ways to kind of carve out some LinkedIn time or break through in their niche to get the opportunities that they actually want and need. So I bet their LinkedIn newsfeed surfaces only the prime content that they care about because they are so picky about the people they allow into their network. And they are also very choosy about the type of content they comment on. Now, we can't see their newsfeed. We can't see what they're seeing. Unless they give you a sneak peek, you're not going to know. But you can tell just based on the types of comments that people are sharing, what type of content they pay attention to, the type of people they follow, and how often they are engaging on LinkedIn. You can go take a look at my newsfeed, at my activity, and see how often I've hopped in. Sometimes they're going to be a little bit more than others, especially during a launch week. but for the most part, it's a pretty steady cadence. And I post a few times, I try to respond to all the comments, and usually those happen on Mondays. So on LinkedIn, precision tops volume. Okay, precision tops volume. So being strategic, and I know that word is overused, being very precise about the type of content you share versus doing a lot of commenting and sharing is going to get you a lot farther on LinkedIn. Now, am I telling you not to engage at all on LinkedIn? No, I'm not. I'm obviously not telling you not to engage. You likely don't have the clout of a national or world renowned expert quite yet. So, where is that middle ground for those of us who are still growing our personal brands and looking for new clients or gigs because we have not yet had our breakthrough opportunity? So, instead of trying to engage a lot on LinkedIn, I want you to think about how precise you can be with your engagement. You're not going to wait for the LinkedIn algorithm to deliver you content that it thinks you want to engage with. Because if you're just waiting and every time you log in, you're like, well, I don't see anything I want to comment on, I'm just not going to comment. Your newsfeed is always going to look like that. You have to train it. So, what you have to do, you are going to train LinkedIn to show you the best of the best content from people you care about in your network. We're going to talk about 3 steps to do that very shortly. You're going to be proactive by seeking out the types of engagement that will serve your personal brand and that will benefit your business. If you have just 5 to 10 minutes per day to engage with your LinkedIn newsfeed, you're going to think about the people, about the leaders, about the organizations who post the most relevant content for your areas of expertise. Now, if you like to write them down, you can write them down and research them. Some of you may know them off the top of your head. That's great. You're going to have about a dozen, maybe 2 dozen of these that regularly share content. So if you can't think of them all off the top of your head, that's fine. Maybe jot them down, because what you're going to do is you're going to do a little exercise. It's not going to take you that long, but you are going to look them all up and you're going to hit the bell on all of their LinkedIn profiles. Now, if they are an organization, if they have just like a company page, follow the page. All right. You're not going to be able to hit the bell on the page, but if it's a person, you are able to hit the bell on their profile. What that does is it tells LinkedIn you want to see content from them. So they will naturally start popping up in your feed, and they will also pop up under your LinkedIn activity, which is fantastic because that's going to signal to you, oh, so and so just posted a piece of content that is relevant to your area, that is relevant to your niche. Do you want to comment on it? So, this will help you focus your efforts on engaging with their posts and not just being a slave to the newsfeed. Once you have engaged with these people multiple times on LinkedIn, they will automatically start to show at the top of your newsfeed. So that will prompt you when something new has been posted. So then your LinkedIn newsfeed will be working for you. So you can see it's not that hard to train LinkedIn. LinkedIn wants to surface the content you want to engage with. It just doesn't know what to put there until you tell it. And this is how you tell LinkedIn what to show you. So this type of precision will allow you to engage minimally with maximum impact. So from time to time, you might want to switch up the types of accounts that you're engaging with just to keep things fresh and attract new audiences. So play with this. But again, just think in terms of, okay, what are the 12 to 24 people, a dozen to 2 dozen people that you want to engage with on a regular basis, and make sure you hit the bell or follow their company page. So LinkedIn will let you know when they're posting content you should be engaging with. Now, when you go about precisely engaging on LinkedIn, you will notice that you don't fall into the bottomless newsfeed scroll or get stuck trying to find something to comment on and settling for a low value piece of content. Or, you know what, you can just disregard all of this advice and continue to do what you've been doing and allow social media to simply be a time suck and devalue your expertise because you're too active or too casual with your interactions. It's your choice. Which sounds like a better option to you? I'm assuming if you got this far that you want to know how to create a better LinkedIn newsfeed. So let's talk about 3 steps to get there. So now that you've probably figured out you want to start engaging more strategically on LinkedIn to get a better newsfeed and, of course, attract more opportunities, because that's why we're here, what should you do next to choose the right people or accounts to engage with? Now, if you are sitting there thinking, Mindy, I thought of those 12 to 24 people right off the bat. If you're super organized, maybe you have a spreadsheet with all of their names in it. Fantastic. Good. Then you already know who you should be talking to. Identifying the right people is what can make or break this strategy. So pay close attention. Who makes it onto your list moving forward? If you're at an impasse, you're like, Mindy, I don't know who to put here. Can you help me? Yes, I can help you. So there are three different types of people that you're going to want to engage with, and maybe you want to put in a few from each category. So, number one, engage with industry influencers. So these are our given, and we tend to think of these the most when we are considering those who would benefit from engaging with because they often have these very, very large and engaged followings. The key in engaging with their content is that you want to add value, you want to add your perspective, but you also don't want to hijack their post for your own benefit. I've seen people do this and it just is ugh, icky, icky. So people see right through that approach. So don't try to hijack their post. Don't try to put the attention on you. Don't throw links to your content in their comments. That's just horrible, horrible best practice. You really want to be thoughtful about how you're engaging with their content. For the most part, you don't want to be controversial. You want to be a little bit on the more supportive end. But if you have a differing perspective, share that in a very thoughtful way. So there's also a lot to learn from how influencers crafted their content to pique interest and get people to engage with them, especially if they have, fewer than 20,000 followers. Those with tens of thousands of followers actually can get away with posting less interesting content because their following is so huge. So I like to pay attention to people who are probably in that 8 to 10K follower range, maybe the 8 to 20K follower range, because those people I find actually have the time and the bandwidth to respond to comments and they make the time. They also are actively trying to engage and grow their following. So they tend to post more interesting stuff. Now you may find people that are way outside that range that still fit the criteria of posting great content. But for the most part, I've seen 8 to 20K followers is a really good range of industry influencers who also post really engaging content. Also, you can just look and see how many comments they have on their post. If they get a lot of comments, they're really engaging their fans and their followers. If they don't have many comments on the majority of their posts, they're probably not writing great content. Okay, number two, engage with the up and coming experts. So now that you have a good idea of the big industry players, maybe you want to choose like, a dozen of them or 6 to 10 of them to follow as part of this strategy. Now let's talk about up and coming experts. So when you have a good idea of the big industry players, who are those up and coming experts that may not yet have a massive following? They likely have what I like to call it. They have it, which you can easily spot online. I've noticed this too. There are certain people that just have it, and you're like, I don't know what it is, but they have like a certain perspective, a certain personality. They have a certain way of engaging with people. They have a very interesting, I don't know, like a diverse array of content that they tend to post. They think differently than other people. And engaging with these experts will allow you to get on their radar because they likely are still small enough to pay a close attention to those who comment on their posts. If they are direct competitors to you, please be very cautious about how you engage because you don't want to be perceived as someone out to steal their ideas or steal their audience. If they are simply other players in the industry, you're like, okay, well, I could see us collaborating or doing something together, but we're not direct competitors, then there are likely a lot of beneficial reasons to get on their radar and start engaging with people who find their content interesting. You likely share a similar or the same audience. So maybe you can collaborate with them for your podcast, your blog, or your YouTube channel. You never know where this type of relationship is going to go. So it is much easier to engage, I feel like, with the up and comers before they get incredibly popular. So don't feel like you're wasting their time by building these relationships now. They're a really great and welcoming group. I would kind of throw myself into this ring too. I'm definitely not one of the big industry influencers, but I do engage with a lot of other people in my space who are doing something similar, and we have similar sized audiences, or we want to grow our businesses in a similar way. So no matter what size, and I want to make this clear, up and coming experts don't have to have a large or like very quickly growing audience to be an up and coming expert. Some of them like to stay relatively small and like to stay relatively niche, but look for their areas of expertise. Look at their content. How do they approach their content? This is what tells you if they are an actual expert or if they are just somebody that is saying what everybody else is saying, and you're like, really? Another one of those types of fill in the blanks. So pay attention to their content. Their content will tell you if they're an expert or somebody that you consider an expert or just like they're just saying what everybody else is saying. Okay. All right. So on to category three. Engage with customers and collaborators. Now, sometimes you're going to see some overlap. Like I mentioned, some of the up and coming experts, they may be collaborators or they may be customers. You never know. Like there's going to be some overlap in these categories. But if you want to think of them in different categories, this is how we're breaking them out for this discussion. This may seem to be obvious. Like, okay, Mindy, of course I would engage with customers. But I like to be sure to engage and support my past and current customers when I see them posting and sharing on LinkedIn. Even something as simple as a like can let them know that I see them and that I support them from afar. Sometimes it's been years since we worked together, and I will see, oh, they just commented on something, or they just shared a great piece of content, or they're doing a masterclass. Ah, this is amazing. Like, look at their profile, look at their audience, look at who's engaging with their content. So don't take for granted the people who have already trusted you enough to work with you or collaborate with you because, as the saying goes, what goes around comes around. So, since I work with people on helping them to optimize their LinkedIn profiles and grow their networks inside my programs, I try to be intentional about engaging my students on LinkedIn in the months after we work together inside the LinkedIn Accelerator program or inside my membership or one to one, especially when I can tell they're making an effort to grow their network and engage thoughtfully on LinkedIn. Now, you may not have customers who are very active on LinkedIn. If that's you, then maybe you want to focus on the industry influencers. So keep in mind, everybody has a unique audience, and some audiences are very chatty on LinkedIn and comment a lot and post a lot. Some audiences are not so chatty. So don't be discouraged if you're like, Mindy, it's really tough to engage with my customers because they don't interact that much on LinkedIn. Okay, I get that. Then focus on the experts, other experts, focus on people you can collaborate with, and focus on the industry influencers. So you can kind of play with the ratios of these different categories to figure out what works best for you. Keep in mind, this is a win-win. When you're encouraging your customers or collaborators to keep going, they're getting those positive behaviors reinforced. You may not be interacting with your customers in the same way, but look for those highlight moments, especially if they get a spot in the news, if their company does, if they hit a company milestone or they receive recognition or an award. Use those moments to intentionally engage with them. Because, like I said, some of them are not going to be posting a lot of content. I'm in the marketing space. So a lot of the people I work with do post a lot of content. But if you work with a different group of people, maybe you work with job seekers. And maybe when they get a new job, that's a time to celebrate. It's like, oh, you landed your next role. Fantastic. Celebrate with them publicly as well as privately. So these three steps, these three groups of people are going to be really critical to helping you create that awesome news feed and something that always serves up content from the people who matter most to your business or your profession. Remember, it's about precision. This type of precision is going to come through when you post and also helps to support the people who matter inside and outside of your immediate network. So, again, number one, look for industry influencers, learn from and engage when it makes sense. Number two, engage with those up and coming experts. Get on the radar of these people because they're going to the top. And you know how it goes. You want to be known before they get too popular because when you have built that relationship in advance, guess who's going to get the opportunities? You are. All right. And number three, engage with your customers and collaborators because current and past customers, they should receive your appreciation. And it's just a really good best practice and a good way to stay on their radar because you know what happens a lot of times is they tell someone else about you, or they're like, oh yeah, they remember you when you comment on something. And they're like, oh, I should refer you. I know somebody who'd be a perfect fit for you. So you just never know where these relationships are going to lead in the future or where they are now, and if there is an opportunity there. And plus, it just is good mojo, right? So, what additional questions do you have about engaging more intentionally on LinkedIn to create a better newsfeed? Have you figured out some other ways to create a better newsfeed? You're like, Mindy, you should have thought of this. You should have mentioned this. Put it in the comments, leave it below, or shoot me a private message on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer them and I'd love to discuss this topic. Now, if you're ready to get started with growing your business on LinkedIn and take the next step, to optimize your profile once and for all so you can start getting new leads or land your next opportunity this year, get on the waitlist for the LinkedIn Accelerator, the next cohort of the Accelerator. Currently, we're planning on the fall of 2023, but I've had some people ask about a summer session, so we may do a summer session too. Inside the program, we address how to create a profile that allows you to engage with confidence and also how to be strategic about growing your network. It's a really great way to kind of kickstart your efforts on LinkedIn. Now, I will see you all next week on Mondays with Mindy. Feel free to leave any questions or comments below, and my inbox is open if you ever want to message me directly. All right, that's it for this week. I will see you all next week. Have a good one.